So I just wanted to start by giving everyone a brief introduction to who's speaking today. It's myself. I'm one of the business partners of 2Gen. We've got Patrick. He'll be handling the QA session. Dakota is our RPA and software development lead. And we're also lucky enough to have Jessica Matenga, who's a process mapping expert, and she'll be sharing some of her expertise later on in the session. And what we'll be going through today is an overview of what RPA, or what's commonly called robotic process automation, but an easier way to understand that is workflow automation. We'll be looking at why businesses should be automating, and this is, I guess, what we're trying to talk about today. Some use cases that we have worked with already, which will give you some insight into how it can be used in your business. We'll run through a couple of examples of RPA. And these examples that you'll be able to see on the screen, a lot of the robots or the actions is actually behind the scenes, so you don't see it. So we've got a few visual ones that you'll be able to see as well. And then I'll be sharing a case study that we did with CPAP Direct. And then we'll go through how to get started with automation and workflow automation. And Jessica will be sharing some information about how to start process mapping and the different types of process mapping that are really good and should be done in your business. And then we'll have some Q&A time. So just a reminder that ask as many questions as you want. There are no silly questions. I ask them all the time. That's how I learn. So as you think of them, write them into Q&A, and then we'll catch up on those at the end there. So what is RPA? Well, it's short for robotic process automation, but it's not actually a robot that sits behind your computer and does the work for you, although that would be great. That's not what it is. They're actually software robots or robots that work in the background, but they do the same role or function as what a robot would do. So in a production line, you have robots doing things over and over again, and those robots do things in a structured, accurate, and repetitive, and also really, really fast way. So that's what RPA is. RPA has been around for a while. Used to be very, very expensive to get into robotic process automation. You had to have, 100 grand to start the licensing. Specialized programmers, you'd need high level expertise to even get started. That's since changed. I guess it's been disrupted. There are RPA tools available to small and medium business, and this is what I'm hoping to share with everyone, is the fact that we can now offer workflow automation for small and medium business. So I just thought I'd go into the reasons why a business might want to automate tasks. And one of the biggest ones that we've found is it's good for staff. If staff have to do repetitive, shitty jobs that build up over time, and they think, at the end of the week, I've got to do 50 of these tasks, and it's really, really boring, and they don't want to do it. And we have had cases where it's helped with staff retention because those staff members don't have to do those boring, shitty jobs over and over again. They're actually able to move into tasks that are way more valuable, way less stressful, and more enjoyable. Tasks like, actually ringing the customer and having a chat with them and, seeing how they're going. And they're sort of people-orientated tasks. So the robot takes care of those tasks that are repetitive, time-consuming, and tedious. And that frees up your staff to work on more enjoyable tasks. And I know from experience that if you're engaged in what you're doing and you're making a difference, it makes you stick around. So the second key reason why we want to automate with robots is increasing productivity. So tasks that were repetitive and took a long time to do in the past, when they're automated, they happen a lot faster. So if you're looking at terms of production line, again, if you've got a product or a service that you're offering and it's sped up, it's going to increase productivity. And also there's, I guess, additional benefits of that productivity increases because you've got staff that are able to work on high value tasks as well. So not only does it make it more efficient and faster, but you get a value add of staff being able to be more productive and work on high value tasks as well. The third reason is keeping your customers happy, retaining customers. So again, if you're, say to a customer, I'm going to have this done within 2 weeks, and that's the typical time frame for a turnaround to get something done, with automation, you can cut that down to much less time. So that means that the customer's getting a better product, faster product, and your staff are able to also interact with the customer more, so that you've got that people touch in there as well. But the heavy lifting of that process is done by the robot, and you're also able to do more with less staff. The fourth reason is enabling growth. If you've got processes and systems that are lumpy and slow, when you go to scale your business and grow your business, those problems get compounded and they will go with you. And it really limits your scalability because you're basically just throwing more humans at the issue to try and fix the problem. Whereas if you have good standard operating procedures and a lot of those automated, when you scale, you get that compounded effect of being efficient. The final one, it's a bit of a no-brainer. It does save you a lot of time and a lot of money. You're not having to put as many resources into those tasks. There's a lot less labour cost involved. And if you do need to, if times get tough, you can shrink your staffing levels. And that's the money saving part of it. But more importantly, it's about getting the job done, getting it done quickly and more efficiently. And robots have the additional benefits of no sick days, and they work 24/7. So it's not reliant on humans to do it. The robot just does it whenever the job needs to be done, and that can be programmed as soon as an event happens or on a schedule. And they certainly don't mind doing the shitty jobs. I think that's really what the robot should be doing, is those tasks that are boring, repetitive, and require a lot of attention. And the human should be doing more creative, high-value tasks, more people-oriented tasks like training, talking to customers, that sort of thing. And they're really fast. Like when we see the example a bit later on, you actually see how much faster they are. And because they're pre-programmed, like the robot on the conveyor belt, they just keep hammering away at it and they keep going until it's done. And they don't make mistakes either. And another good thing about the robots is they're referring to them as robots, but you know what I mean? They are auditable, so you can see the work that they've done. So you get that peace of mind knowing that, yes, I've handed my workload off to the robot, but I'm going to make sure that it's done well, so that it is auditable and there are reports so you can view exactly what the robot's been doing through the process. Going well so far. Just going to go through the use cases. This is just basically off our website, but processing emails and attachments automatically into any of the apps that you use. Integrating applications, converting data from one format into another, creating all sorts of reports for you automatically, copying data from one app to another, auditing your data, error checking, and inputting data from different formats into applications. And it can basically automate whatever you do on your computer. So I just thought I'd go through a few use cases, and I'm going to be handing it over to Dakota just to go through these use cases. I know it's a wall of text, but we're hoping we can give you some context around how these work and the benefits that we've seen for a business that have implemented workflow already.
Thank you, Richard. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, as you can see there, some of the use cases, obviously, it's not limited to these. As Richard said, it can be anything that you do on your computer, really. Usually, hopefully, with a defined process, but we'll go into that a bit later as well with Jessica. But yeah, some of the use cases here that we've already tested and proved that work. So simple data entry. So say leads coming in from email or from a certain system. We've had an example where someone would be getting about 50 a month, and it would take someone, 4 minutes each lead that came in. And then with a software robot, each lead, it says there 25 seconds, but it's actually a lot quicker than that. It's only a couple seconds each. So then that whoever was working on that, they've obviously got a lot more time freed up. So 50 times 4 minutes, that's about 200 minutes that they've regained in their day to work on something else.
And they would do it inconsistently as well.
Yes, usually a lot of the time there's errors, files uploaded to the wrong thing, etc. Complex data entry. So usually this is a bit where the robots shine, I guess, usually around tasks like accounts payable. So we had an example as well where the client was getting hundreds a week, and it would take them 10 minutes each. So they'd have to take the invoice, match it to the client, check the purchase order, each line item, calculate the tax, make sure the totals were right, make sure they actually got all the stock. And with the robot, it turned one invoice from 10 minutes to 25 seconds. So across 100 a week, that's massive time saving. Another example, so PDF data extraction. So we typically integrate with a lot of OCR software. We had an example where a client needed to check some forms, make sure that they were signed by people, get certain data, say something like a Medicare number for a client. We'll go into a bit of security later about how that was performed, but obviously that's a very laborsome task. They had to go onto a shared folder, find the client details, find the right PDF, make sure it was signed, open up their portal, I guess, where they were putting this data into, and they had probably about 3,000 records that they had a backlog of that they were losing money on. And yeah, we were able to implement a robot for them, and each record, took just a couple of seconds each for each one of those.
And with the OCR, it's basically the robot would be programmed to check for certain elements on a PDF, so that PDF would come in either via website or email, and then the robot would read that, pick out specific information, search for specific records, and then input it into whatever systems they needed to. And I'll just add this one too, Dak. It can be a handwritten form as well.
Yep. So scanned, handwritten, or just normal digital form. Doesn't even have to be PDFs. It can be images. Anything that you're grabbing from a document, it can grab as well. This is another use case, web scraping. So we'll go into it a little bit more later as well, but sometimes there are scenarios where there's no system level access for the robot to communicate, usually over something called an API. And so sometimes we need to mimic what a human is doing. So clicking buttons on a web page and getting information from the browser. So I think we've got an example after this slide, but we had a client who had to check builder licenses, and each one was very laborsome, and it has to be done correctly because they're big liability if they're wrong. And we'll see here, it took them a couple minutes each, find the record, open up the page, search for them. And if you want to move over to the example, Richard, it took just a couple seconds each. No, not yet. And data transfer, entering data into multiple applications, like I was talking about, doesn't. If there's no API, it can do what you're doing. It can open up the program and click buttons on the screen. similar as anyone else would.
So
This is
I'll just,
the
yeah, so this
sorry.
is an example. Sorry, Dak. This is the example of the license check, which is, I guess, more geared towards construction people, but it just showcases what the robot is capable of doing. So it's able to, in this example, I'll just play it and you'll be able to see it. So on the left-hand side, you'll see it whizzing through checking a QBCC license checking. So it's just putting the license number in there. And on the right-hand side, you'll be able to see that it's being checked and how fast it goes through that. So that used to take humans a very long time. So in this particular instance, we had a list of builders that needed to be checked, and it would go and then check them. But the advantage of using the robot is that if it found a license that wasn't valid, it would then trigger the robot to do something else. So it would then either email the business units and say, hey, this particular subcontractor or builder is no longer able to work with us because of their license isn't valid. And then it would also be able to email the builder and say, look, we've just found out your license is not valid. And, you know, just a reminder them to make sure it's updated. And once it's been sent through to us, we can process it for them. So it's very handy in that regard. And that's how fast the robot works as well. It just goes.
Yeah, a cool sort of number comparison. By the time a human was able to check about 5 licenses, this did about 180. And they had to do 180 on a very regular schedule, either weekly or monthly, and this can check the 180 every day, every hour, however, whatever sort of schedule we want it to do.
Which saves a crap load of time. So in this particular example, this was a data import or a migration. This is what they call an attendant robot, where there is some interaction with the end user. Just play this one. So this one's uploading an Excel file that we're going to be importing. So the human does that part. And the robot checks the data, validates the data, then logs into the application. And the human input from this would be adding username and password, which just get pushed directly to the application, including multi-factor. That can be pre-programmed in there as well. So there's no human interaction if you wanted to, but this is just a case that we did. And once the robot's logged in there, it grabs the data that's in that Excel sheet and then automatically inputs it into, this is our client management system, automatically, and it adds tags, sets the billing contact, sets the mailing contact. So it does that sort of really, really helpful stuff when you're trying to add clients en masse into a database in a very particular structured manner. So if you're migrating from one system to another, again, that saved us a crap ton of time. Excuse my language. And that's just, yeah, going through that. So I'll roll on to the next one. So this is where I'd like to just give you everyone a bit of a background about how our robotic process automation works. There are automation tools already available like Zapier and Microsoft Power Automate, but we found that they were limited in their scope and they didn't have the flexibility or really the power that we wanted to do with RPA, which could be very different per client, per situation and per process. So we created our own solution. I just wanted to get Dak to give us a bit of a rundown of how we've done that.
Yeah, obviously, as Richard just said, yeah, we've tested a lot of off-the-shelf solutions, and as you alluded to before, when RPA first started out, it was quite expensive, and obviously there's a lot more tools available, but still, depending on what you're using and what you're trying to do, it's either not flexible or there's still a bit of a cost associated. And obviously, the name of the game, we're trying to create value for you by automating your workload, and it's not really that helpful if it can't do what you actually want it to do, or we're just going to pass a big ugly cost over to you. So as Richard said, we created our own solution. So we took the best bits that we could find from everything we tried and created ourselves. So um, basically our own internal framework using industry standard sort of software and solutions. So it's hosted in a secure private cloud, but it can also run managed on site on a computer or a server. Obviously, there's no computer required in that sense for an unattended scenario. But if you want to help a user, like Richard was showing before, as an attended workflow, obviously they're going to need a computer to interact with.
So can I just interrupt that? So an attended
Yep.
workflow might be an approval process or somewhere where it requires a person to interact with that process. So
Yep.
you can.
As you can see there, so no confidential data stored anywhere. Part of that is part of the auditing process, I guess. The robot's only going to save what you want it to save if you want to just check that it's run correctly and it's done this. Otherwise, sort of as a human, as you're doing it, it's in your memory. As soon as you've moved on from that task, you're not thinking about it anymore. So if it's handling with sensitive information, it's not storing it anywhere, not saving it to a file or somewhere where someone can find that and do malicious things with. So by doing this, it's using like a secure vault industry standard solution that we've taken to use for that, sort of like a password manager, but for software. And they run stateless in containers, so very secure in that sense. It's as soon as it starts, it starts, and then once it's gone, it doesn't remember anything. And then, yeah, the only things it's going to save are the auditing. So we've created a customer portal view for you to log into, and you can see what it's done. We've also got like approval workflows, and yeah, and reporting. So say a process used to take 5 minutes and it cost X amount. Well, we've done about 1,000 of those, and we can sort of show the value and time saving associated with that.
Now, I do have a reminder here to turn my sound on. This is a case study we did with CPAP Direct, and we're going to be hearing from, or hopefully going to be hearing from Fleur, and she will be going through the case study video that we've done. This is also available on YouTube, so I'm just going to play it. Hopefully you can all hear it. Good. I'm lucky enough to be talking to Fleur from CPAP Direct, and they are a national leader in sleep apnea therapy, diagnostics and equipment. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. Good.
Excellent. So Fleur approached us to help automate some of the processes within the business that were time consuming, and we're creating a bit of a backlog with her staff. So I just wanted to know if I can ask a few questions, Fleur, about the type of the automations that we did for you.
Yeah, sure. So you helped us with a couple of AI robots, which reduced our manual data entry of a number of different documents. And secondly, helped us with automated data extraction, data validation, and data cleansing of big data, saving us a lot of labour.
Yeah. And was that data unstructured? Like, was it handwritten documents, or was it a mixture of digital and handwritten?
So it was a mixture. So for the robots, it was a mixture of handwritten documents that you were able to read through your technology and automatically enter into our ERP system. And there was also PDFs from external suppliers as well. With the data extraction, it was actually, you obtained that through API integration. So that was really clever as well. So it was a combination, quite a few.
Yeah. And how much time do you think it saved you per
Oh,
For a robot run, how long did it take you to do the process manually? If you give a rough idea without giving away too many secrets.
yeah. So I just can't believe we hadn't done this sooner. We were spending each month just with one of those robots. We were spending almost 3 weeks of a full-time equivalent person sitting there manually data entering, whereas the robot could do it almost instantly. Yeah, just one robot itself saving that much labor, that's at least 50-60K a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's more for the other tasks they helped us with.
Yeah. So you're able to shorten that time to process those tasks, and that's where the value is as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And also improving the accuracy as well, because we knew that there were no human errors, and we had audit logs provided as well as to what the robot had done and any exceptions. So it made the reviewing task for the manager of that staff as well a lot more efficient.
And did it make, like, I know some of these manual tasks, I know I do a lot of shitty manual tasks and they're a bit of a pain to do, to make staff a bit happier to just sort of have that, know the robot was doing its tasks and don't have to come into work and go, oh, I've got lots and lots of data entry to do and lots of hair pulling to do. Did that help with the staff as well?
Yeah, absolutely. They were able to be happier, more engaged, and working on higher value tasks. So they got the opportunity to learn as well. So very happy.
Awesome. Cool. That's the whole idea of having a robot do some of those tasks that aren't too human friendly. And what about the overall process of working with 2Gen? Was it an easy process? Did you find any like from go to woe? Were we easy to work with and easy to get the robots deployed for you?
Actually, yes. The whole process was extremely easy. You are extremely prepared, extremely knowledgeable. You've got a team of experts there, and it's really noteworthy to mention that your team can understand and break down an extremely complex process and explain the solution with a lot of clarity to prevent any potential issues. So yeah, extremely easy process.
That's awesome. So overall, it was a good experience.
Yeah, so far so good. It's all good.
Cool. Just wanted to thank you, Claire, for spending time with us today and giving us a better understanding of robots and how they've helped your business. And I'll look forward to doing more work with you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to that. That was Fleur from CPAP Direct, and they're a national leader in sleep apnea testing and diagnostics. We've done a lot of work with them, improving their processes, and they've been a great client to work with. Okay, so sorry, we're still new to this, but so I guess it leads to how to start the automation journey. And it really starts with getting clarity and insight into existing processes. So creating process maps and developing standard operating procedures. So once we've got a process that we want to automate, we do a process map and we can see this is how the automated version of that would work. We can calculate how much time it will save and calculate your return on investment. And then we're able to build the robot, test it, make sure it's all working, and then deploy that robot to your environment. And I'd like to just reiterate the importance of process mapping, having that visibility into how you process map. So we're lucky enough to have Jessica Matenga from Biz Process Pro. She does a lot of our process mapping and value stream mapping for our clients that require a bit more complexity. So I'm going to allow Jess to talk a little bit about process mapping and developing standard operating procedures.
Excellent, thank you, Richard. As you see, my name is Jessica. I don't think you can actually see me, and that's probably not a disadvantage, but pretty much you can hear me and it's still the same.
Thanks.
Okay, so yes, my background is in continuous improvement, and what I've been working with Richard previously is around process mapping, end-to-end processes, and how they actually do work and benefit you as a company. And I guess it's more around understanding your business flow, and that's where I step in. So there are two parts. Is what we have called is process mapping, and then there's also value stream mapping. So process mapping itself is normally where I start when I'm looking at assisting companies in understanding and streamlining their processes. So with process mapping, it's around understanding the process at a detailed level, step-by-step views. And the difference between process mapping and value stream mapping is that with process mapping, you have your decision points included in the process. The other benefit is 100% that people know where the process begins and where it ends. So that just gives them a bit of clarity in their role. And that's really important because I guess if you don't have a process or a standard to follow, then sometimes you're left to your own devices, incurs errors and things like that. And sorry, Richard?
And you get variation in that process as well. You get people doing things that, and it's hard to replicate the quality job. So yep, sorry, I just thought I'd add that in.
No problems. And then with process mapping, it's a visual representation of the responsibilities within the process. So it includes any, divisions or departments or people that they're all represented in that process map. With the value stream mapping, it's mostly used in manufacturing method. It's lean manufacturing method used as a baseline for continuous improvement. And it's normally just a snapshot of a process of moving raw material and services to the customer. It's more of a high level process of the movement. And it's based on values created using time. So with value stream mapping, you normally would go from having your high level and then down to your process mapping. So in process mapping, there's two types. One is just your standard process flow, which is on your left-hand side, very basic. That's a basic one. Although if you're looking at a bigger organization, obviously there'll be more decision points, which is your triangle and your steps in between. It's very easy to follow. You have your start and you have your end being the oblong one. We also have swim lane process flow as well, which is very good for when you have a end-to-end process that the process actually flows through multiple departments or roles. So in that one there, which is what I've spent a lot of time in the construction industry, we have your pre-construction, your construction, and then your accounts, and your process flows from your decision points will normally go to the right if it's a yes, and then to the left or down if it's a no. So that's a simple one to follow as well. Value stream mapping, this is very, very basic, but it will give you that high level overview of what value stream mapping is and how it would benefit your business. This is just, say, for example, we have a KPI, and a KPI with a client could be that your lifetime of having received a job to invoicing and closing is 15 days KPI. What this shows us in basic format is that, if that's 15 days as a KPI, we can already see that your first day is already taken up with receiving the request. It's going to take them 7 days to submit the quote and whatever the tasks are involved in that. The actual construction of the project stage is 15 days, 2 days to get a sign off, and 1 day to close out the job. So we need to then look at the value of that map. And what you normally would do in value stream mapping is look at the actual task that's taken the longest to complete. And so we've got our constraint, which is the 15 days, and that would be normally the first one that you would go through, and you would then do your process map. So below that, which is the construction, which is also on the process map previously, you then take that particular task, and then you keep going down until you've got an actual full process, detail by detail of that particular task. And part of the value stream mapping is also ensuring that you've got your team of experts that actually do the process to collaborate with and come up with the solutions on how they can reduce their timeframes.
Can I ask a question, Jess? So does that mean that at the top there, that slide, it says the KPI is the job should be taking 15 days, but looking at this here, it's going to be a lot higher than that. We've got 1 day, 7 day, 15 day, 2 days and 1 day. And what you're saying is that we would target the 15 days first, because that's obviously where it's taking the longest, and the process map breaks that construction process down so people can obviously either automate part of that or get better processes. Okay.
Yep, definitely. So once you've actually been able to bring that down as a team, you would actually want to decide how many days you want to bring it down to, so that it becomes a standard. And then you work on the next constraint, which would be those 7 days in submitting quotes, for example. That
so
would be
what you're saying is if we reduce the construction stage down to say 8 days and then the submit quote down to 2 days, we'd meet that KPI.
Yep, you meet that KPI, and then a part of the continuous improvement is to then look at how you can continue to reduce that time so that you're actually below the KPI.
That makes sense even for me.
So benefits of mapping. Number one, it enhances the process clarity, reduces your errors and misunderstandings, easier to understand and communicate complex processes. Efficiency improvements, clearly identify your bottlenecks, constraints and inefficiencies. Provide solutions to reducing waste and streamline processes. And then your last one pretty much is you're able to make informed decisions as business owners or as leaders. The information that's coming through your mapping is that you then have data-driven insights so that you are able to make informed decisions and be able to make process changes. And as I mentioned before, your visual presentation leading to researching improved systems for increased productivity, such as the automations. Because once it's out there on a map and you can see it, it just makes it easier to make informed decisions.
Yeah. So just to clarify that, like how important the process mapping is before we jump into Q&A time, when you're visually able to see a process, you can say, holy shit, why are we doing this part here? And it also gets everyone else that's involved in that process getting their input into that particular process, and it makes them understand their role better. And everyone's working to make that process better. So you've got, and Jess used that example of hitting that 15-day KPI. If everyone puts input into that particular process that's taking that long, it's much easier to visualize and then also to bring change in through the organization. You know, there is I guess so that you need to choose the automations that do take quite a long time to do and are starting your business up, and that there is worthwhile automating that. And we are able to prove return on investment easily, not only just based on the time and labour costs reduced, but there are lots of ancillary benefits with that as well.
Yeah, legal and compliance, so that you can have it auditable, particularly the ones that deal with confidential personal informations. You can get some audit trails and better reporting out of it.
So just a really quick recap on the benefits of using RPA workflow automation. Obviously, it's saving you time and money and freeing up your staff so they can work on the, I won't say SHIT, but good stuff. Speeding up processes and providing a better customer experience, reducing labour costs because the robot's doing the work for you, helping your business scale because your processes are streamlined and they don't compound if there's issues. There is a risk reduction because you don't have as many errors going through, because when people copy and paste stuff, there's always mistakes, and the cost of fixing those mistakes can be very expensive. And you're also able to do more with less, so you're able to offer more services and more processes automatically without having to add people into the mix. So this is the close. I put this little joke up here because I wanted this to be a no-brainer. So automation is a no-brainer because it's done by robots and they don't have a brain. So laugh it up, y'all. Thank you everyone so much for attending our first live event. You will receive a recording so you can share it with all your friends to explain about what it is. And then you can contact Jessica. Her details are in the last slide there about process mapping and value stream mapping. If you want to learn more about our offering for robotic process automation, just Google RPA and 2Gen. The URL is too long and you wouldn't be able to copy and paste it anyway, but if you search for that, you'll find it. Or you can email me, ring me, whenever you want, we can make that happen. Thank you, everyone, and good night.